we've come down on a top 3 characters in Street Fighter 6, and the idea here is to put them under a microscope and figure out what is it that makes them better than everyone else, albeit maybe just by a little bit, because this game is balanced pretty well, but what makes them better than everyone else, and then hopefully we can find some common denominators that run through them all and say this is what's specifically the best kind of tool or the best combination of tools to have in Street Fighter 6. But I'm going to turn it right over to John, who's going to let us know who our top 3 are.
To me, this is not a debate. When you look through the various tier lists and other things like that, these 3 characters separate themselves entirely from the fold, and that is Luke, Kin, and JP. And I want to go around the horn here and just kind of see, like, that's everyone's top 3 consensus as well for the most part. John, you already said that you feel the game's balanced. Maybe there's not a big gap between here, so we'll start with you.
Yeah, I can stomach that. I would maybe make a different top 3 as we have in our previous tier lists and such, but I can appreciate that, one, these characters are getting the most attention. They're making the most people frustrated as top tier characters. I'm down to have a discussion about them as the strongest in the game.
Yeah, I think this game is changing a lot, and anything could kind of happen at this point, but I think at this point in time, those 3 characters are standing above the rest. I think that's pretty fair.
Well, I figure we can sort of jump into it here and put one of them under the microscope first, and I will again turn it over to John. Why is Luke specifically by himself one of the absolute best characters in the game?
Yeah, I like to call Luke the man of 3 moves, because that's really all you need to win with him, even at high levels of play. We've got some footage here of NL and Korean Wrestling Man, who are 2 very, very high-end players that you see placed in tournaments all the time. And the 3 moves that you want to be using with them, and we'll go ahead and plop up this flow chart here. It's crouching medium punch, crouching medium kick, and crouching light punch. If any of these 3 land, go ahead and confirm into a big combo that does solid corner carry and damage. Watch, wash, rinse, repeat. And you can actually see from the footage here, NL starts off with Luke, and he's doing some stuff besides these 3 moves, and he's going like, wait a second, why don't I just like flowchart my way to victory? And he does, and he completely dominates in the set with those 3 moves. You actually can throw in a little bit of crouching light kick and stuff in here. He does that a little bit as well, but you don't need to. You can just mash crouching light punch a little harder, and that will pretty much do the trick there. And this is great because crouching medium punch right now with Luke is going through this whole thing where everyone is like putting it on just like, you know, like a bomb goes off and it's Luke like hitting crouching medium punch and stuff like that. It is a great move. And the best part about it is if you hit it, or if someone blocks it, it's +1 on block, it's +5 on hits, fully special cancelable, and then it pushes the opponent right to a great range to crouching medium kick them. But if they somehow happen to close ground on you a little bit, just mash that crouching light punch there. And again, you will just go into these huge combos, great Okazemi. It's basically like Capcom just completely overtuned this character and said, hey, we don't really want people to have to use their brain. We just kind of want them to go ahead and just hit these buttons and win, and they did a brilliant job with that. That's pretty much all you need to do with this character.
Steven, do you have any notes on Luke and why he's the best?
Yeah, well, one of the best for sure. I think right now people are starting, I think some pro players are starting to say he might be #1, or it's for sure that he's #1. I don't know if I believe that yet. He's definitely really, really good.
We don't have these 3 in any particular order right now. I mean, we all probably have an opinion, but we're not talking about them as 1, 2, 3. We're just talking about them as top 3.
Right. For Luke, it's pretty much what John said there. It's kind of do your best normals and then just confirm into drive rush, and then there's big corner carry. He does tons of damage. I mean, he's just a beast, man. I think the biggest thing that holds him back is probably his meter usage and his timing for the perfect knuckles and stuff like that. But even with that, I mean, he's really, really damn good. He just has tools for everything, and I think we're gonna get into this a little bit later. But he's got tools for pretty much every situation that he can find himself in. And if he's in a bad spot, he can usually use some of those tools to just get right out and get to an optimal spot, and then just pressure you and then get you cornered, and then now you're dead. And yeah, that's Luke.
Do we feel like his corner carry is more effective than the average character?
A little better. He's certainly not at the level of Kin, who we're going to get into here in a second, but it's still pretty good for what he can hit confirm off of, especially from a jab.
I do think that he's got a presence there. I think he hits like a truck. For me, the first thing that comes to mind with Luke in terms of his having strong abilities is the way he's able to bully. And I think you got into that a little bit, John, with what you were talking about between the juxtaposition between crouching medium punch and crouching medium kick, for instance. One, a lot of his moves make him move forward, so they occupy a deceptively large amount of space in front of him. And he's got a pretty scary red zone that also he can very well or effectively convert from. But you feel like you're outside of Luke's range and you're not, or you feel like it's your turn, but maybe because of that gap or that space that your fast move doesn't reach and his slightly slower move does reach just in the time to hit your recovery of your fast move. A lot of that kind of a situation. A lot of times when you're backed against the corner and you want to make your way out and it feels like he's given you space, he hasn't really, because of those forward moving normals that are very convertible. So that's the first thing that comes to mind with him, but he also doles out tons of damage, which I would argue just about every character in this game is capable of doling out tons of damage. But he does so, and he also can get there very effectively from the neutral. I don't know that his drive rush is anything to write home about, but it's still drive rush in this game. Very effective.
I'll jump in there and just say that his drive rush maybe in a vacuum is not that great, but when you couple it with his normals that he can convert off of, then it becomes extremely good.
And it's also really good for pressure as well. It might not be like a jury or DJ or anything like that, but again, like John was saying, kind of coupled with the rest of his tools, it's probably an above average drive rush. Like and coming from somebody who plays lower tier characters and knows how bad drive rushes can be, Luke's is definitely it's probably better than average, I would say.
And also he uses it a lot to get Oki after things, after knockdowns. And I think that's a really important thing too, is that after he hits you, he can continue pressure in a lot of situations. And I think that's really important. Something that I'll put in my back pocket, but remember that because it'll come back around in the story.
Before we go on from Luke, I want to talk about how to blow this up basically, because this is important. So his crouching medium punch, his crouching medium kick, and his crouching light punch are the moves that you want to look for constantly in neutral and stand right outside of those ranges and hope that the Luke player is fairly stupid and mindless, because that's about 90% of the Luke players out there, and you can sit back and whiff punish that. That is one of the main ways that you want to blow up this character, is basically look for him to mindlessly flail away with my flowchart here, which is what they're most likely going to do, and then you want to actually just put him in training mode and have him spam those 3 moves, and then take your character and figure out which of your moves blows that up on whiff punish. It is an extremely important way that you need basically a base level here. We've seen like Gotcha-kun do this with Rashid against Luke players as well. There is a very solid way of countering this, but it means looking for these 3 moves pretty much at all points in time.
Thanks. I'm going to use that later today. Okay, so Steven, why is Ken regarded as a top tier? Well, if you like that clip from Talkin' Block, the whole episode is going to go up just a few days after this goes live. So it'll be here when it's ready. But if you need to tide yourself over, there's a ton more Talkin' Block on our channel. Here's an example right here. Very interesting conversation. You should check it out.